3. This interview is for TDM Convention and Sales Management course and is being recorded via Zoom. After recording the video, a shareable link will be posted on Canvas, the online platform used by students at Arizona State University. This video is for educational purposes only. Karen, do you verbally agree to grant permission for this interview to be recorded and posted online on Canvas for instructional purposes?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Good. So Karen, your journey from graduating college to working, you have very impressive experience and resume, I must say. Especially working at the French government forest office, which is quite impressive. Going back to that time, could you share your steps you took to prepare for this position?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. It was a while ago now, but I think what I'd like to share is I have my BA in French, so it's not a hotel management degree. I was a language major. I have my minor in Italian, and I knew I wanted to do something with my French. And in New York, where I was living, I went to the French building where there was a bunch of companies that began with the word French. And it was the French National Railroads and the French Tourist Office, the French West Indies Tourist Board, the French School of whatever, I mean, everything with French. And I wrote to all of them. And I received a reply from the French government tourist office, and they were looking for someone for their French West Indies division, which included Martinique, Guadeloupe, Saint Martin, and Saint Bart's, and doing sales and marketing for those destinations. And so I think the moral of that, kind of story is being aggressive and, resourceful and kind of exploring all avenues.
Good. I think that's really great advice, especially because you were a French major and not necessarily a hospitality to get into a job that's more kind of the other end of the spectrum, if you will.
Yeah,
So what was your experience like working as an assistant to National Government Sales?
it was great. I loved it. I stayed there 5 years, and it was an entry level position. So I was really starting at the bottom, in office every day. And at that time, St. Bart's isn't what it was today. So it was really the very beginning of tourism for those islands. And I had to prepare like a training manual for the hotels on how to greet guests because it's funny when, you have these islands, you think it's because they're in the Caribbean, you assume that it's an American territory, but of course they're part of France and their national language is French. And we used to get comments from American tourists saying, everyone speaks French, no one speaks English. But that's crazy because that would be like, French people coming here and saying, but everyone speaks English. So it was a real, challenge to on that end to really kind of train the hotels that this is what Americans are expecting. And then on the other side of the coin, to train Americans to say, this is not what you're going to receive. And then we would have the training manual would include things like you have to smile and greet the guests because again, it was really the very beginning of tourism in St. Bart's, St. Martin, Martinique, and Guadeloupe. And I got to do all kinds of things like set up events when the hotels were coming into town, trainings for both the hotels and the um, the agents on how to sell. And so it was very creative. I really enjoyed it.
Sounds like an awesome experience. Um, so someone who is maybe looking for a position going down that route, what would you suggest to them? Or what advice would you give to someone looking for a similar position?
Well, I think, something, I don't even think you can go to a building now and look at the addresses and which companies are in there because the security is so high in so many buildings. But of course, this was pre-web, and pre-internet. So, that's a great, obviously a great resource. And I would just say that, explore all avenues, talk to as many people as possible, write everywhere, and the different things that you do along the way, you'll see what really ignites your passion, whether it's sales or whether it's marketing or digital or whatever. I think when you have like an experience in all aspects, you can say, you know what, I really like that. I want to develop that a little further. Um, and, I just think that um, the more exposure you have to different aspects of the tourism industry and the hospitality industry, the more you'll see what really suits you.
That's good. Also, looking more into your prior experience, you also had a lot of experience managing hotels and resorts. So, kind of thinking to those positions that you had, how did you prepare for those roles in managing hotel and resorts?
Well, I think, I was very lucky, really. I think some of it is timing and luck, and when I was at the government tourist office, I I kind of, realized that I really enjoyed sales. And so I wanted to explore that a little more. And I took on two regional sales roles at Forte Hotels, Rocco Forte Hotels, and it was entry level, and then moved up quite quickly. And I also think that, I mean, I don't know if it was quick. It was quick for me. It was 2 years. But of course, nowadays, everyone thinks, oh, I'm going to, move up in 6 months or a year or something. But at that time, we stayed, we learned, we worked in the office, we did, kind of paying your dues kind of, experience. And then, that really, prepared you for other roles. So, I had direct hotel and resort experience when I was working in regional, and started at Forte Hotels, like I said, and then moved up to a sales manager. I also chose the hospitality industry because I thought it was a good field for women. And I saw women moving up in this industry. So I wanted to be a part of that. And as far as, your question about hotels and resorts, for me in the regional role, I was selling hotels located in the UK and in the US primarily. Um, and it was always in the luxury arena. So I think if you want to get into that market, the luxury arena, that's a very different market from maybe the Wyndhams and the Hyatts and things that aren't really ultra luxe like that. And they require a little bit of a different skill set. And people look for that when they're hiring. Is your experience in the luxury travel world, or is it um, in the 4-star arena? So then it was the first Gulf War, and and I decided to, and they had a series of layoffs, and I was really disappointed because I loved the job. I stayed there 7 years with Forte. And then, but everyone says it's going to be a blessing, and it really was. So I moved to Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, also in regional sales. So that's how I got very familiar with hotels. In Mandarin, the locations were primarily in Asia, and we started developing and create and developed hotels in the U.S. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Can you go back to the difference between sort of the luxury hotel travel and more of working at resorts, say like Wyndham or
Yeah, yes. So in the luxury world, there are different agencies that sell that market. Then there are travel agencies that sell a little lower, one notch under. And so when people hire, they look at, this is eventually right now, like on graduating, I think it's good to try everything. But eventually you'll want to narrow it down because my roles with regional, I would call on luxury travel agencies. And those were the ones that were qualified to sell the upper, kind of ultra luxe properties. And they had the clients that fit that. Then there's nothing wrong with selling, Wyndham and Hyatt and, they're great roles and jobs, but they're different travel agencies that sell those. Some travel agencies specialize in the luxury market and some specialize or, really have more clientele that would be, suitable for, the, three, four, 3 and 4 star hotels.
no good. Definitely helps that explanation. Um, sorry, just looking back at the questions. Um, it's kind of shifting gears a little bit, but moving forward to your current position as an SVP of Brand Strategy and Business Development. Just tell us just a little bit, just general basis about that role.
Yes. So, I work for a travel agency now and it's called 400 and it's unlike any other travel agency, in the market. It's super high end, super luxury. And I run their preferred hotels, division. So I put together their preferred hotel program and we have about 400 properties that participate. And it's a sales and marketing program. So they come across to these high-end members. The agency is membership only, so you can't just walk in and say, I'd like you to do my travel. You have to be a member in order for us to work on your travel. And so um, I have been there for 3 years now, and we have about 2,800 advisors that are signed up to use 400 by Design. Um, and it's very different from selling hotels. So my background is, the tourist office, as we talked about, and then hotels on a regional basis. And then I said I've never really worked on property before for a standalone hotel. And I wanted that experience. And so I did that in New York for about 12 years. It was a wonderful property, 150 room boutique hotel called the Plaza Athénée in New York. They had a sister hotel in Paris. And and I loved it and I stayed there so long because it was like my child. And I think that really got me into the mindset of trying new things. And I went to a consortia after that called Virtuoso. So all of that really, I think, led up to me joining this travel agency and running their hotel program because I was so familiar with hotels. And then the consortia, which is a group of hotels and travel agencies, and I was running their hotel program, like a preferred program, but I wanted to do something on a smaller scale. And I stayed there 10 years. So now 400 by Design, um, is, really a travel agency. It's my first time ever working at a travel agency.
What was it like switching from the hotel world to a consortia?
Well, first of all, I was mostly, remote in the new, position. So that was a big change because my entire career has been in an office, and you had to dress and you had to, because, you had to dress, you had to wear suits. Image was very important, and you had to be there, because you had walk-ins at the hotel, people that wanted to come in and site the hotel. You were greeting guests, and I was told that, you know, perception is everything, and you really, you are your company. So you are a reflection of your company, and you always had to, focus on your image. And then, the pandemic hit, and there was so much remote work going on. And I started exploring that, and I said, I really like this. I never did that before. And so 400 by Design was mostly remote. I went into the office maybe once or twice a week. And but I think it's good to have that in office as well. I think that's the ideal scenario for me, is a hybrid kind of model where you do have an office, because you do learn so much when you're in an office. And I would say I'm very pleased to have had that chance. Um, to look back, and say, because all my training was really in office, and I find it difficult to both learn and train on Zoom, because there's so much more that you can tell someone when you're face to face.
It's definitely really good that you brought up kind of the change pre-pandemic to now. How would you say your role has changed since working with
Yeah.
400 and even just starting since COVID?
Yeah, so besides the remote, versus in office, now that I've had 3 years under my belt, we realized that some of the marketing, when we were focusing on B2B marketing only for those 2,800 advisors, we call travel agents travel advisors, because they're more than an agent. They really advise you on where to go and what to do. So before the pandemic, or during the pandemic, we only had B2B marketing, which was suitable for our travel advisors. And we realized that many of our hotel partners wanted to reach the end user. They wanted to reach B2C, which is the members. And so now, post pandemic, I actually created a model to sell B2C marketing. So that was a big change, and it opened up a whole new revenue stream, for the agency.
Do you think that there's more of a shift from B2B, business to business, now post pandemic to business to consumer?
That's an interesting question, and one that I think about often, because, when pre-pandemic, hotels would make as a plan a year out, and they would say, I'm going to go to New York in January. I'm going to go to Chicago in February. Now, post pandemic, who are they going to see? So many people work remotely, and they're spread out all across the US. So I think the strategy is shifting a bit, where B2C is very much in demand.
How did you adapt the change from B2C to B2B? You mentioned that you had changed your entire almost marketing platform once pandemic hit.
Yeah, most of it was distribution. Some of it was content. So we have actually a B2B version of the marketing that suits the travel agencies. So it speaks to an audience that is selling to their clients, whereas the B2C version speaks to the travelers. So I
Okay.
think that that's the main, yeah, change.
Would you say that one of the things that we've been talking about with tourism and hospitality is the how it's really changed pre-pandemic to post-pandemic? Um, would you say even conferences have been hit hard? Would you say that we are getting back to pre-pandemic, or do you think this is a entirely new shift and the field needs a transition to it?
I think very little is the same. Everything's changed. And before the pandemic, besides the remote versus remote, you really had to justify your sales. Like you had to, I mean, justify why this hotel is suitable for the traveler. Now the demand is so high in the luxury segment that travelers are spending more than they ever have, and there's very little space. So before the pandemic, you were able to introduce a lot of new product that they may not have considered. And now I find in the luxury world that, they're going to their pre-pandemic destinations and hotels and not so much trying new things. They want to repeat their pre-pandemic experiences and they're paying more for that. So if, as an example, if I tried to sell, say it was Cap d'Antibes in France before the pandemic, and I said, I have one, there's one room left and it faces a wall and it's $2,000, people would say, no, I'll go somewhere else. Now, when we say that, they say, okay, book it because there's nothing left, like they're all going to the same hotels, the same, product. And of course, the demand makes the rates. So the hotels can get astronomical rates, if there's high demand. So that's one of the major things that I see. And let me see what else has really shifted. I think the communication is very different now. You have to, like, when I send a personal message up to the 28,000 advisors, I get an amazing metrics on it, like four times industry standards. But if I just send a regular kind of sales email that everyone else is sending, no one opens it. I think the messaging has really changed. Colleen, can you hear me?
No, I can hear you. No, I think that's really good advice.
Oh, okay.
So it sounds like really what was like looking over what's like your favorite part of working with 400 now?
I like the creativity of, you know, kind of aligning with the market and the changes in the market. So, I can monitor and see what clients are looking for and align the collection of hotels that I offer to the demand of the travelers. So if they're looking for, like during the pandemic, everyone was looking for wide open space, right? They wanted to be in nature. They didn't want to be in a city. So we were offering a lot of product that would cater to that, like the Amman hotels, Amangiri. the a lot of the auberge resorts, which are, located in Wyoming and Denver, and they weren't traveling internationally. Now, of course, it's a different picture. The whole world is open. Now, even Asia, people are traveling to. So I like aligning the collection and the offerings to what the travelers are looking for.
Now, what advice would you give for someone going into this field and having to get into hospitality and tourism, especially post pandemic?
Yeah, I think, times have definitely changed since I, recorded every company that began with the word French. And I think, you know, as someone who hires, like I've hired many times, I definitely look at skill set. So if I see that, you've taken classes in hospitality management, that's a huge plus. And I think, getting your feet wet in all different types of um, like whether it's sales or marketing um, or whatever interests you in the hospitality world, even to the point of, whether it's hotels, maybe it's villas, maybe it's a cruise, or maybe it's the tour operator world, or on-sites, which are, their destination management companies. So there's so many avenues that you can take. And I think it's good to, kind of explore all of that. And I wouldn't shy away from being in an office. I think, it's something that's really valuable. I know a lot of people want fully remote work now, but, I think a hybrid model and some positions can only be done in an office. So it's such good learning, even if it's for a short time. All skills are great. Languages, I mean, you can go online, Rosetta Stone, and, just learn anything, even a smidgen is great experience. Communication is so important. Writing is I think, an undervalued skill. Like when I'm interviewing and I see someone um, has press release experience or any kind of writing experience, that's a huge plus to me. So that's what I would say.
What qualities would you say stand out between candidates? And when I say this, as in, let's say you have two candidates who went to the same college, had the same GPA, primarily the same classes, similar experience. What is
Yeah.
really that one thing that would set them apart?
I think that what I look for is someone who really wants to learn. And it comes across like whether you're, some are really overly confident, like, they might um, think because they've had some classes, they know everything. But I think I'm still learning. Everyone is still learning, right? So I think that comes across on an interview, whether you really want to learn. And it also comes across on paper. But how many things you've done. I also look at work ethic, to see if, you've had any kind of work experience. It doesn't have to be in the hospitality industry. I also like, the charitable component. A lot of people I interview have volunteered, and I think that that's really important in the world and in life, and that shows me a certain type of person. Um, so I would say that those are the primary things that I look for. Willingness to learn, and certainly any kind of work experience, any kind.
Okay. Well, thank you again for your time. You have a lot of experience and a lot of incredible advice. I think will be helpful to a lot of college students.
Good. Thank you so much. Thanks for including me. It was
Yeah,
nice chatting.
thanks again.
Okay. Thank you, Colleen.
See ya.
Bye. Bye, everyone.